Good morning. Very warm welcome to Somerton Seashore Birding Adventures and part 4 of the Big Year Challenge. I'm down at Linford Arboretum at the moment, and it's about 0 degrees and in mid-March. Been some fantastic birds around this morning, but we still haven't found our targets, which is hawfinch and brambling, but hopefully we'll come across them soon. And after this we'll be heading out to Titchwell on the Norfolk coast, and of course it was there back on January the 1st 2022 that the big year all began, so it seems a fitting location to conclude this amazing journey. What I'm going to do is head out there soon, and I was hoping that you could join me on this last leg of the journey. So put the kettle on, put your feet up, have a cuppa, and I'll see you in about 20 minutes down at Titchwell. What I say, fortune favours the brave. Okay, first up, Little Bunting. This bird was seen on the 2nd of December at Worcester Park in Surrey. These Little Bunting breed in Norway and Finland, Northeast Tiger, a rare but a regular vagrant here in the UK. And it was actually nice not to have to drive to the other side of the country to see a new bird for a change. However, that soon changed. A spectacular bird called a king eider turned up at Redcar Beach in North Yorkshire. Now, if you remember, we had already been to Redcar Beach chasing the greater sand plover, but needed to return for this bird. I always sort of seem to see this bird turn up in Scotland, or sort of a little bit too far out of my range, and so I decided that this would be the bird to go for. These birds breed on tundra pools in the Arctic, and they normally winter off the coast of northern Scandinavia and Iceland, but they are a rare winter visitor here, and they do turn up. This particular individual was hanging out with some common eider on the sea, and on arrival there was probably about 12 people looking for it. It had been seen but then had gone out of view, and it was quite difficult to get onto this bird because of the swell of the sea. However, perseverance paid off, and I did end up getting brief but good looks at this bird, and so it was a successful but cold day for the king eider. Just up the road was some very cool birds though, and at first glance driving past you might look up and think, oh, there's some starlings up there, but if you were to look a little harder you can see these little tufts coming out the back of their heads. And in fact, what we went to see was a flock of Bohemian waxwings. These birds breed in the conifer belt in northern Europe and tend to actually winter mainly in Central Europe. But so they are a rare visitor here in the UK. But in some years, eruption years as they're called, they can turn up in big numbers. And that's what I thought was going to happen in 2022. It wasn't really an eruption year, but there were pockets of waxwing being seen around the UK. And I mean, when these eruption years happen, this might be a combination of a bumper breeding season, so there's more birds, dwindling food and bad weather. But anyway, these birds were hanging out gleaning berries in a cul-de-sac in suburbia, and you know, we got some lovely views of these birds. The waxwings are just fantastic. They're quite approachable. They don't seem to fear man much, and you know, often you can even see them in supermarket car parks where they have these ornamental plantings, things like pyracantha and mountain ash, where they can glean the berries from them. So yeah, wonderful bird to get for the big year. Very happy with that. Next came a hat trick on the 17th of December. Had a fantastic day. It started off at Fear Park, Exmouth in Devon, where we connected with a really, really cool bird called an olive-backed pipit. It always seems whenever I see these things pop up, they're on Shetland or the Scillies or, you know, some spurious place which I can't really get to. But when this bird turned up and seemed to be hanging out for a day, thought it was worth going down to try and see it, and we were successful and got some lovely looks at it. I mean, this bird tends to breed in open woodland in Siberia, and when winter mainly down in Southeast Asia. So yeah, a scarce visitor for sure, and a lifer for me. From here we headed over to Labrador Bay, quite a famous place for this bird here. This is called Searle bunting. Devon has always been the real stronghold for this species, and on arrival we got we saw approximately 19 birds, but I think we saw another flock at distance, so wasn't sure if that was them, but I believe there's a flock of up to 50 in these fields that are, I think, managed for the Searle bunting. And then from there we headed into Wiltshire, and this time to Bradford on Avon in the Cotswolds, to finally catch up with this bird. This is Dusky Warbler, another Siberian breeder, and it was nice to finally see this bird because we had already dipped on it twice, once in 2021 and then once at Walthamstow on the big year, and it didn't show for quite a long time, and most people had left by the time it did show. There was just me and another fella left, and yeah, it put in an appearance, and as you can see, we were losing light and it was in cover, so it was hard to get really good photos, but great to see it, great to hear it, and another lifer for me. So 2 lifers in a day, can't complain about that. And also, whilst hanging around for this Dusky Warbler, got absolutely wonderful looks at this stunning male kingfisher. What do they say? Fortune favours the brave. Well, I have been rewarded for my efforts. I took off this morning to chase another bird called a great grey shrike, a bird also sometimes referred to as the butcher bird because of its habit of impaling its prey. Anyway, this is a bird that's annual here in the UK, but I've tried for it on a couple of occasions down in Kent, missed it, and then took off this morning, and after seeing it come up on the rare bird alert, and it's right in the middle of the New Forest, and it's the sat-nav's not brilliant out here. But anyway, it's absolutely been pouring with rain all the way down the M3, and I was thinking of binning it actually, but I thought, well, this would be a good recce even if I can just find a good car parking area to get out to see this bird in the future. But anyway, I hiked out here, and luckily enough I got the bird. So I think that's 263 for my big year. So I've had 4, sorry I keep sliding here. I've had 4 this weekend, which has absolutely been brilliant. Anyway, I'll leave it at that, and onwards and upwards. Next came Isberline Wheatear, and this we got on Boxing Day, so that was a nice present over the Christmas period at Seaton Marshes in Devon. These birds breed sort of on short grass and the plains in the Middle East, often nesting in rodent holes actually in the ground, and then wintering down in the sub-Saharan zone. It was raining quite a lot when we got there, but the rain stopped and the sun popped out, and as you can see, this bird showed very well, and we got excellent views of it, and it was a wonderful bird as a lifer and also for the big year. Well, I'm here at Titchwell. Yeah, spoonbill and marsh harriers and medgulls and golden plover. It's a beautiful day, nice and quiet here actually in terms of people, but yeah, it's been great. Isberline Wheatear, number 264. Where to from here? 270 would be a nice number, nice round number. But that would mean 6 birds in what, 5 days, which is pretty tough. So I think the thing to do is to go north and up to the Highlands of Scotland. It's a bit risky because we've only got 5 days, and 3 of those days will probably be spent mostly driving, so not much time on the ground, and the weather was unfavourable to say the least. But the alternative was to stay in the southeast, and there wasn't much showing and not much to go for. And day 1 was pretty much spent driving north to Stirling. I made one quick detour to the Solway Firth to chase a red-breasted goose, which was hanging out with a bunch of barnacles. But we got there, and the weather literally turned as we pulled up. The bird hadn't been seen for about an hour, and minute by minute it just got worse and worse and worse. So with limited time and the heavens opening up, I had to move on. The following morning we headed again north, this time to Clyde, on another wild goose chase. This time it was for a snow goose. On arrival at the site, to my horror, I could just hear all the pink-footed geese were up and in skeins and flying above my head, and we had missed the opportunity because the field that the snow goose was reported in was now completely empty. And to be honest, I started worrying, was this the way things were going to go? Another missed goose. But I decided not to leave straight away and just poke around the roads there and look into a few of the other fields. And fortunately, I reconnected with this goose, which was hanging out with a bunch of grey-lag geese. Yeah, I thought, well, maybe my fortunes are going to turn. So from here, we then headed north. The landscape changed dramatically. As you can see, they had already had a fair dump of snow, and the roads were a little icy. We were heading for Lochgarten, main stop on that day. Lochgarten is very well known for its history regarding the osprey, the last ospreys in Scotland, and their persecution and then their recovery through the help of RSPB and some wonderful volunteers. It wasn't an osprey that we were in search of that day. Ospreys would probably be sunning themselves on the west coast of Africa, and what we were looking for was something rather smaller. This absolutely wonderful bird, the crested tit. Um, the Highlands is pretty much the place to see this bird. I have seen them once before in at Loch Garten, but that was in June about 8 years ago, and they actually were more difficult to see then. I think it's probably because they're sort of got young around. There's lots more natural food, and they're spending a lot more time in the canopy. But yeah, it was definitely harder to see. But on uh, this occasion, what we did was sit and wait it out at a feeder, which had lots of coal tits and blue tits and great tits coming to it. And then, of course, the excitement really picked up when the crested tit arrived. So that was a wonderful way to finish our day, our first sort of real full day up in the Highlands. Now, the plan was originally to go over to the west coast. There was a report of a snowy owl, and that was really on my mind. But looking at the weather, there was a lot of snow already dumped. The back roads were quite icy, and there was a weather front moving in, and it wasn't looking good. So, because we only had one full day, which was the following day, we had to make a good decision. And I definitely didn't want that decision to be one of us getting stuck on some back road because of the snowy. So I put that to bed and came up with plan B, and that was to stay local and actually try and get a couple more birds the following day. So we started off at an amazing site called Lochindorb. This wonderful loch surrounded by beautiful moorland was where we started our day, and we were there at dawn. And it was, when I look back, I think that's one of my favourite moments, was driving this road, very, very quiet road, um, looking for red grouse. And as the sun come up and you could hear the crunch of the snow under the tyres, and it was silent. It was a wonderful atmosphere. Um, so we made our way along this road, sort of slowly, just scanning, and eventually we came across two birds that were at the side of the road, but they moved back into the moor when they saw the car coming along, and then I saw this individual take off, which was wonderful, and to hear it call as well. So from there, and went to Cairngorm parking area, the ski lift area, and my plan was to scan the slopes for ptarmigan, or even walk them, depending on what the terrain was like when we got there. But the car park was absolutely full. There was walkers and skiers and lots of people all over the mountain. And if there were any ptarmigan on the lower slopes, they definitely would have pushed up to the higher peaks. But I gave it a scan. Unfortunately, I didn't locate any. I had a couple of red grouse fly over, which got my heart racing for a bit, but they were red grouse. We did, however, get to see some snow buntings, which was lovely, actually, to see them with a snow backdrop rather than as I normally see them on the shingle beaches of Norfolk. And then from here we headed to Findhorn Valley for the last part of our trip. Now, this area is extremely famous for raptors, peregrine and buzzard and kestrel and red kite and sparrowhawk, and of course the two big birds that people come here for, and that is golden eagle and white-tailed sea eagle. As we entered the sort of valley, we did get our red kite, and it was quite nice to get that because I actually remember reading in a book, um, you know, as you enter, you've got a really good chance of red kite, and there was the red kite, so it was as it was in the book. And then we took a slow drive through this valley, and it was just breathtaking. And it was, regardless of whether we got anything or not, it was just wonderful to be in this landscape. So we made our way down, and on arrival, there was a few birders there looking skywards, which was always a good sign. And fortunately, we connected with probably my most wanted bird for that trip, and that is golden eagle. I apologise for my awful photo. As you know, I have a point and shoot camera, which isn't the best for tracking flying birds at height in poor light. But hopefully you can see that is a golden eagle. We had 2 adults and a juvenile. This was our route really from Inverness. We followed Loch Ness right down to Fort William, through Glencoe, which was ridiculous. I mean, the landscape there is just unbelievable, and you just want to pull over every 2 minutes and take another photograph because you just can't get enough of it. So yeah, that was a lovely drive through Glencoe, through past Loch Lomond, and then we made our way all the way down to Carlisle, where we spent our last night. So we continued on, and then I made one final stop in Lancashire to chase a wonderful little bird called a twite. I've only seen twite ever once in my life, and that was down at Thornham Harbour, Thornham Overy in Norfolk a couple of years ago. They tend to breed in northwest sort of England and up into Scotland on treeless moorland, and then in the winter they form these little finch flocks and tend to hang out in this sort of salt marsh areas, gleaning seeds, spending a lot of time on the floor actually. And so that really was the last bird of the 2022 Big Year Challenge, and that left me on 269 species. I'm just back from the beach now. Sandling, grey plover, oyster catchers, fun stuff like that there. Anyway, 269 species for the Big Year 2022. It was a lot of fun. Brilliant doing it with Jacqueline. She really was a great support through the whole of the year. Anyway, that's it for now, and hopefully I'll be putting a new video up of what's been happening in 2023. So keep safe and good birding.